Hey everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to talk about the books I read in April. We're approaching the end of May, so I'm a little behind on doing this wrap up, but May has just been wild, and the only reason I have time to film right now is that I have a sick kid. So I'm home from work with a sick kiddo, so that's really the only reason I'm even doing it now. I thought I was going to have to combine April and May, but I'm going to have a little time to do it now. I did return several of the books that I read in April to the library because they were due, so I'll put pictures of the ones I don't have. So I had a couple books that I did not rate, and then I'll go from like my 3 stars on up. So one of the books that I did not rate was a graphic novel. I read the first in the Lightfall series, which is The Girl and the Galdurian by Tim Probert. And this is, I think it's classified as a middle grade graphic novel fantasy world, and I'm liking this series. I've already read the second one in May, and I'm just not rating them because I think I need to read the whole series to kind of see how I feel, because sometimes the graphic novels is just such a short amount, such a series, such a short little piece, one book in the series, and then I can't really decide how I feel. Like, I don't want to just give it a 3-star when, you know, maybe as a whole unit it'll be more. And this is about a girl who lives with her grandfather, and one day her grandfather goes missing but leaves her a note. And I read this long ago, I think I read it at the very beginning of April. I can't remember all the details, so I don't want to give anything away, but basically, like, she's going on a quest to find her grandfather and runs into this creature called a Galdurian, that all the other Galdurians are gone, extinct basically, except for him. And so he and the girl go on a mission to find her grandfather, and then more stuff starts to happen in the world, more dangers, that they are going on a quest to kind of save their world and all that. And like I said, I am enjoying it. I just don't know exactly how I would rate it. So I'm just gonna keep reading them and then kind of give a more definitive review when I finish the series, which I do have all of them out from the library that are currently written. I don't know if all 4, like if it ends at 4, but I have all 4 out from the library. The other one I didn't rate was Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix, and I read this with my daughter. If you've seen any of my other wrap-ups this year, I am reading some books for her school with her, so that they do like a battle of the books where they like do like a little quiz show, and I'm actually have joined the adult team. There's like 1 or 2 adult teams that are competing with the kids. You know, we're gonna make sure we don't actually win because that wouldn't be very fun, but just for fun, little competition sake. And so I'm reading all the books with her and discussing them, and this is one of those. And this is not a book I would have picked up if it wasn't for this challenge of reading it with my daughter, so I'm not going to rate it. But I think it's fine for a middle grade book, and my daughter really liked it, and she is continuing the series. I think she's on book like 3 in the series. And this is a dystopian sci-fi about a world where people can't have more than 2 kids, and so like after 2 kids you have to stop having kids. And we are following a boy who's a 3rd child, and so he's hidden away, and he might have figured out that there are other hidden children out there and all that. So yeah, it's like a dystopian. Nothing that I would have necessarily been called to if it hadn't been for her, but fine for if you have a middle grade student or you just want like something quick. It's like a perfectly decent dystopian for middle grade. All right, and then 3 stars, I have another middle grade novel that I read recently called Cattywampus by Ash Van Otterloo. And this is like a contemporary fantasy, so like it's taking place in real life, but there's like magic. And we are following two kids, Delpha and Katie Bird, and their families are like enemies. So they don't like each other. Their families have been enemies for generations. But then Delpha is trying, both of them are trying to discover their magic. There's magic in these 2 families, but it's always been like, one of them does kind of like earth magic and another one does like wand work, and the 2 don't mesh well. And so they're both trying to discover their magic, and they end up causing some troubles and some problems. And so they have to gang up together to like save the town from what their magic has done. But they can't let their parents know that they're like working together and all that stuff, since the families are supposed to be not getting along or whatever. And this was cute. Like, there was nothing wrong with this one. I picked it up because I It has one of the characters is intersex, and I was doing like a challenge board about different LGBTQ plus categories, and had never, I don't know, I maybe have read another character that's intersex, but I wanted to pick up a book in that part of the queer alphabet, and so I heard about this one. Seemed cute. It is fun. I just rated it 3 stars because it wasn't like anything amazing, and there were zombies, and I didn't know. Looking at the cover, seems super cute. Wouldn't imagine that half of the book is about fighting zombies, right? By looking at this, it looks like too cozy, and I'm just not a fan of zombies, and if I had known that going in, then maybe I wouldn't have picked this one up. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that happens to be a trope that just like is usually a no for me, but it was fine. And cute if you're okay with zombies. And then my other 3-star read was The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And this is the second in this series. This is like a young adult kind of mystery, just basically really dramatic, very much like a CW show. We're following a girl, Avery, who had inherited tons of money, like billions of dollars from a man that she doesn't think she's ever met. She has no idea why she's inherited. And so that was the first book of like learning why she inherited this money. We were just continuing to follow her and these 4 brothers who are the grandsons of the man who gave her all the money, and continuing to figure out like what is her connection to the family? Why is she inheriting all this money? Feels like teen, young adult drama. I just didn't love this one as much. I feel like in the first one, there was a lot more puzzles and a lot like more mystery. And yes, there are reveals in this one, and there's continuing to be like mysteries to solve. I just didn't find them as interesting. I think also the problem was on this one, I decided to pick up the audiobook, and this like is a very young character. I think she's like in high school still, but the narrator felt like definitely like she was like in her 40s or 50s, like the way she sounded. So it was like very disjointed of having her voice narrating Avery, and I think this is in first person. Yeah. And so that just felt like weird. So if I continue the series, which I will continue, I have the 3rd, I won't listen to it on an audiobook, so maybe I'll like it better. But yeah, I think that might have affected my enjoyment of this one. Okay, let's try to get to some books I liked, because I feel like I had a lot of like not rated and 3 stars, but I do have some 4 stars. So books that were solid. Nothing 5 stars, but some solid reads. Next, I read Psychopomp and Circumstance by Eden Royce, and I really loved Eden Royce's, I think it was her debut middle grade, was called Root Magic, and that was like 5-star, one of my top favorites a few years ago. I can't remember what year that was, but probably 3 years ago. And so when I saw this adult novella come out, I really wanted to try it, and it was really good. So the like Psychopomp and Circumstance is that like the pomp and circumstance part is the celebration of the end of a life. So her aunt dies, and this is kind of like a reimagined historical fantasy. So it's taking place in like the Reconstruction era in the South, but there's definitely fantasy elements and spirits and like mythical creatures and stuff like that. So it's like an alternative reality history. And in this like version of the world, when people die, somebody from the family is chosen to do their pomp, which is like their funeral, and kind of like the cat is hitting the tripod. Cat, stop. And kind of do the celebration, pick out the funeral director, do all this like ceremony. So that's the pomp and circumstance part. The psychopomp part is that it's that when I looked it up what like psychopomp is, and it's like things that like bring a spirit into the afterworld. So it's kind of a play on that. So pomp and circumstance is the celebration, and psychopomp is like the spirits going into the afterworld. Yeah, and it's a novella, but it's packed full of a lot of stuff. So this woman, Fee, she hasn't seen her aunt in a long time. Her aunt's been kind of estranged from the family, but she really thinks it's important to give her aunt an appropriate send-off. And so she goes to her aunt's house. Things are a bit creepy. So this novella starts off seeming like it's going to be like a horror, because there are... Cat, oh my goodness. He's messing with my sticky note. It does have like creepy moments in her aunt's house, and she's never been there before and kind of like feels there's a presence and all this stuff. And so there are some spooky elements, but then like it's just like the process of her picking out you know, somebody to be in charge of the funeral, and like this whole process, and just reconnecting with her aunt through her aunt's house and memories that are there from her aunt. And there are some like paranormal elements and stuff like that, but overall it was just kind of more of like a family drama, grief, working through all of that in kind of a fantastical setting. And I thought it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it, and it's a novella, so it goes by really quick. So I'd recommend that one. And then I picked up The Pool of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I had read Room by this author, and Room was one of those where I thought it was a good book, but I didn't enjoy the process of reading it. This one also is one where I thought this was good, well written, enjoyed it, but it's a little hard to read as well. So like, Emma Donoghue is talented, but her books take a little bit of fortitude to get through. But I found this one very fascinating. So this is taking place in Ireland during the epidemic, the flu epidemic of the early 1900s, you know, like the one that took place right after World War I. The reason I bought this a few years ago, obvious reasons, it took me a little bit to pick it up. I felt like now we are 6 years from our pandemic that I felt like, okay, I can pick up another one about another deadly pandemic in history. And it was fascinating in the fact of the things that were parallel between our experience with COVID and this flu epidemic, but then also how much stuff has changed because of like technology and medical things. Our main character is a nurse, and she is in a ward that is a maternity ward, but specifically a maternity ward of, you know, pregnant women who have caught the flu. And so they're separated for obvious reasons, and because they're more high-risk pregnancies, because the flu can often cause them to have miscarriages or early births and all that stuff. So there's a lot of medical things in this. Since that is like, we are basically following like 2 days in this woman's life in this maternity ward, helping these women who have the flu, and it seems like everything that could happen with pregnancy or the flu is going to happen in this. So there are definitely very tense moments. There's births, there are miscarriages, there are all kinds of things that are happening. So just be warned, if that is a trigger for you, complications in pregnancy, there's plenty of that in here. But yeah, but I found it really fascinating, and maybe that is partly like me. I have never given birth. My kids were adopted. So it was kind of fascinating to be there to like experience all these things that are happening, and also just like medical technology at the time, and also her being a nurse that was like there alone. There wasn't a doctor in the ward. And so like if one of these women went into labor, she was supposed to call for the doctor, but basically, even though like the rule would be like, you need a doctor there when they give birth, she's like, well, the doctor is busy, because there's a lot of people, like there's doctors that are out sick, obviously, with the flu, or have died or quarantined or whatever. And so there's a real lack of staff. And so sometimes she's alone and she has to like deliver these babies, even though it's not protocol and all this stuff. So there was a lot of that. And so very interesting. We are following her, and then there's also a side character named Birdie, who is like basically like kind of like a candy striper, a volunteer who is helping in the hospital. And so she doesn't know anything about medical, so the nurse has to like kind of talk her through everything, but she's like helping the nurse. And then there's a doctor that is like kind of like the third character that comes in and out, and she is a woman, and at the time, you know, that would have been a little more rare to have a woman doctor. So there's some things with that, and there's some political things happening because it's Ireland at a time when the what's it called, like the revolution or whatever is going on about the same time. And so a lot of stuff happening at the same time. So some intense moments, like, so wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed it, but very informative, very interesting. I didn't give it 5 stars because I was pretty fascinated, because the last, like, this is split into like 4 sections, I believe. And The last section, yeah, 4 sections. And the last section kind of took a turn, went in a completely different direction from the themes that were going on. And that's fine. That was the story she chose to write, but I just didn't like the last section as much because it didn't seem to be as focused in on the same themes as the first 3 sections. And that's the part I was really fascinated with, all the like things that were happening in the maternity ward. So there we go. I still recommend it. I still think it's good. Just be ready for some like heartbreak and things like that happening. And then the last thing I read was Painted Devils by Margaret Owen. This is the second book in the Little Thieves trilogy. And I loved Little Thieves. It like 5 stars, absolutely adored it. So I was really looking forward to this, but a little nervous because it's not one of those where the first book ended on a cliffhanger. You could read Little Thieves by itself. So I was like, I want to continue because I love the main characters. Our main characters are Vanya and what is that? I hate it when they don't put the names on the back because I'm terrible at names. Emmerich. So Emmerich and Vanya are our main characters. Still love them. Love them, the characters in this. But the plot in this one was a little more meandering. And so like these are pretty thick books, 500 some pages. The first book, the plot just felt like it was going really well the whole time and really invested. Or this one, the plot kind of like kind of went in and out. And so I was a little more focused on like the romance, which is fine, except for the romance was very like hot and cold all over the place as well. So it felt a little meandery. So I kind of wish it would have been tightened up a bit, but I still really love following these characters. So this was 4 stars, not 5 stars, but still good. Still love these characters. I can't necessarily tell you exactly what this book is about because would spoil some of the events from the first book. In the first book, we're following Vanya, who is basically like a con artist. She is like, has taken the place of her mistress and is pretending to be her to like kind of con people out of money and stuff like that. And so that's where we are following her in the first. That is part of her personality, is that she is like had a lot of trauma in her past and is like just trying to survive by conning people. And so this one starts off with her making a cult by accident, but that is part of like the con artist thing. So still really fun and adventurous, and I love the characters, just the plot wasn't as like flowy in this one. I am looking forward to finishing off the trilogy and see where these characters go. You know, the end of this one made me kind of sad, so I don't really know where the next one is going to pick up. So we will kind of see where that goes, but I am enjoying the series so far. So that's it. Those are the things I read in April. If you've read any of these books, I would like to talk to you down below, and if not, I'll see you next time. Bye.